So much talk about Arsenal. Will it be Arsenal's season? Kai Havertz. Havertz scored Arsenal's winner against Brentford at the weekend, making it 4 goals and 2 assists in his last 4 games. Aftershave boy, is Kai Havertz no longer Arsenal's £65 million tax write-off?
Oh, come on, a broken clock is going to be right twice a day. Eventually, if you throw enough against the wall, some of it's going to stick, isn't it?
Come on.
Come off it. Crying out loud, this team is scoring goals for fun. Eventually, he's going to score some goals. Does that mean that when it comes to the business end of a season and we start seeing him needing to be the difference in key games, that make the argument...
You cannot praise the boy, can you?
No, because I don't think he's worthy of any. I think at this moment in time, and this is a £65 million footballer that scored a few goals in games that Arsenal have dominated recently and been beaten 5s and 6s. When he does it, like he did in the Champions League final for Chelsea, and defines a season by goals that determine an outcome in big games that are the difference between key players turning up when they don't, then I'll sit here
but
and
that was a key goal. That was a key goal on Saturday.
Yes, it was. It was an important goal, absolutely. But, the bottom line shouldn't even been on the bloody pitch.
Well, Thomas Frank certainly thought that. He claimed Havertz should never have been on the pitch, as Simon says, and should have received a second yellow for diving.
Or
this
blue.
This is Frank.
It's Havertz is a clear dive. Clear dive. I wish I just would admit it. I don't know if he had. Because that happens all the time, every week. Someone is doing it, and I know it happens. So that should, of course, have been a second yellow and a red card. And then he wouldn't be able to score the winner. And we hopefully could gain a little bit more momentum, maybe to win the game. I didn't know during the game there was a dive from Havertz. I'm happy I wasn't told when I didn't saw it, because then I probably would have lost and got my 3rd yellow and then couldn't be on the touchline for Burnley.
So that was Thomas Frank, Graham, saying, no, definitely, he should have gone, should have been red. Now, this is your opportunity. You would say blue. Mm-hmm. You would say this is a moment. This is a moment that a blue should have been produced. Mm-hmm. Because you're an advocate that in a moment like this, a player like Havertz should head only to the sin bin, having been blue carded. You're sticking to that?
100%. If you were to do a survey, I'll ask you 2 people who are
be kind.
Point.
No, I can't use the term
Get to
football.
the bloody point.
I can't use the term football people. I'll ask you 2
all right.
2 guys. What is the thing that frustrates you most in football? You first.
Listening to self-serving waffle from so-called football people.
Seriously, apart from that, what in a game of football, when you're watching a game of football, what?
Okay,
I'm not asking you the question.
Simulation.
I'm not asking you the
I'm
question.
so sorry.
Simulation. What's another word for sim? What's another meaning
Cheating.
for? So the cheating is the thing that frustrates you the most.
Right.
Yeah.
What? And you, Jim?
Thanks for asking, Graham. Now that I've had time to think, diving.
Simulation.
Simulation.
Cheating. That the man in the street to a man, ask 100 people, how 100 people will say it's diving.
Yeah.
It's going down, pretend you're injured.
So you would say the answer to that.
So we eradicate
Le carte bleue.
We eradicate it in 2 weeks. We eradicate it in 2 weeks if you introduce a sin bin. Because what would happen? Team goes down to 10 men. In some cases, they would concede a goal, lose the game.
Yeah.
So the managers would be after them. There was a saying when I played, you don't get booked for opening your mouth, son. You get booked for making a mistimed tackle.
Right.
And that's gone. Now they try to get each other, and they try to... Mm-hmm. I was working with Mika Richards on Sky one day, and he came out, he was talking about Jack Grealish. He buys fouls. I said, explain, what does that mean? He said, well, he buys fouls. He dives when he's hardly been touched. So you're trying to influence the referee, and you're cheating. Yeah. Anyway, you dress it up, simulate it, you're cheating.
So you think
we eradicate it.
Right.
In 2 weekends of the Premier League, we eradicate it.
Let's drive a coach and horses through that, because you're in a minority of one, and I'll tell you why. Let's say Kai Havertz is blue carded, off to the sin bin. Does his time in the sin bin, comes back out and scores the winner.
Yeah, but maybe Brentford in that 10 minutes.
Where's the punishment aspect?
Maybe Brentford have scored a goal in that 10 minutes.
But where's the
10 minutes?
But where's the
but the
punishment
10 minutes
in that procedure?
Are you daft?
I just told you.
Probably.
10 minutes he's off the pitch. They're down. It's down to 10. They're down to 10 men.
Yeah.
And that means Brentford would have an enormous chance of maybe scoring a goal, and they end up winning it 2-1. That's where the punishment would be.
But why isn't the kind of sane procedure of 2 yellows make a red working for you?
But they're not going off for 10 minutes.
Do you not follow his point? Where I agree with Graham to some extent is
what?
Now, if a guy's on a yellow card already and he simulates, I don't think he should get a blue card. I think he should get a red. But what Graham's saying is, if you've got no offences on the pitch whatsoever, the guy's got no yellow cards, the first instance of him doing something like that, he gets a yellow card. So then there's no effect on the team. What Graham's saying is, if instantaneously, when a player hasn't been consequenced, you give him a blue card, he's off the pitch, then that moves into the territory of someone being consequenced and then the team being consequenced.
Let me tell you, it puts the managers... Managers,
no, I do understand
managers today will encourage players, trust me, managers today will encourage players to go down in the box. And if you go down, pretend you're injured.
Did you encourage players to go down?
No. I'm from a different time. Definitely
Rubbish.
not.
Francis Lee was doing it 50 years ago. It's not a different time.
I came from a different place. It's not something I ever did, and it's something I ever encouraged players to do. If your chance go down and hold you and pretend you're far more injured than you actually are, go down the box, we'll get a penalty. So the managers today, to a man, will encourage that.
Well, to be fair to you, when you injured somebody, they stayed injured.
No, but Jim, because that is now part and parcel of our game.
Yeah,
that is part and parcel of the game, and everybody does it. Does that make it right?
So you've gone in the sniggering boy. You've gone in the blue. You've gone in the blue card direction.
No, I understand.
He's won you over.
No. I understand his logic. What he's saying is, if players have had no consequence on the pitch, right, and the first thing they do is simulation, they get a yellow card. There's no effect on the team. And what Graham is saying, if you affect the team instantaneously by putting someone in a sin bin, then all of a sudden managers, like with the spray can, which makes people go back 10 yards, are going to denote it and start consequencing it. But I would then move it on to say, how do you then do it on the basis of someone that's got a yellow card? Because if they get a blue card, it's a kind of reward for them staying on the pitch. Whereas if it was a red card, if you've got a yellow card already on the field, and then you simulate, it has to be a red card.
That's a decent argument. I think the referee has to make that call.
Yeah,
I mean,
but then you're asking referees to juggle about 15 different cards.
No, not at all. Graham. I think there's two ways it should be used. That's one, and I come back to it. I think within 2 weekends of the Premier League or any league, you would eradicate it. Another thing that the blue card should be used for, and it's not subjective. You abuse a referee.
Agreed.
You abuse a referee.
Off you go.
Go and sit over there for 10 minutes. And that in 2 weekends would be eradicated.
There is logic to
You're looking to improve our game.
But you realise you are in the minority saying this.
Because people aren't thinking,
not many are backing you.
People aren't thinking it through. They're not thinking it through.
All I can tell you is when I speak to people who've played the game, people who've managed in the game, after I've said what I've just said to you, they start to nod their head. It's frustrating to watch people throw themselves to the ground. Simulating.
But isn't
cheating.
But isn't it ironic? Graham makes, and he's right, but a lot of the managers actually have come out and said they don't want a blue card, right? Current manager Eddie Howe was one of the first people to come out and say they didn't want it. When you frame it the way Graham frames it, which is the greater evil, right? Complicating the game by having a blue card, which is some people's resistance, or stopping simulation. So you stop simulation at all costs. The problem is with Graham's argument is the very people that would be in favour of it now are the very people that have spent the last 10 years engendering that sort of behaviour in their own bloody players.
Yeah. It puts them in a difficult position,
doesn't it?
But you say if FIFA allowed a blue card for diving or dissent when you lose a player, even for a short period of time, that man disadvantage on occasion would cost them dearly. Yeah. I mean, there's a caller there saying, but teams are wily to it. They lose a player,
they'll bank up.
They bank up.
Yeah, but you ask any manager, do you want to play against 11? Do you want to play against 10? Yeah, you can't say it's a black and white. People would organise them. They just have to, I think they do anyway, they prepare for having a player sent off. Yeah, of course that would happen. But that's still a penalty. I mean, I think if you ask any manager out there today, right, do you want to play 11 against 11 or do you want them to have 10 men? They're going to say 10 men.
Well, the only alternative to that is determine simulation and dissent as a straight red card. That's the alternative.
That's the alternative.
That's the alternative.
But how many would go that strong?
But that's up to referees. You can't legislate for them having no balls.
Right.
But the point is Graham's argument is get rid of it, and if we do this, we'll get rid of it. If you go after them,
it won't take long to correct it, Simon.
But if you go,
2 weekends.
so then
you say 2 weekends.
Why not go? If you believe, like I believe, and I think you're right, that the biggest crime in football right now is simulation, then why not make it a red card offence?
It turns people off.
Because people will go subjective and go, hang on a second, one person's simulation is another person's contact.
So you can't go a halfway house. No, stick him in the sin bin.
It turns people off watching. I get frustrated watching it. Get up, you fool, rolling around.
Agreed.
Right.
And it's in our game. It's normalised now. It's what everyone does. Another way you would use a blue card, people abusing referees, and there's a real knock-on effect here. You know, it's not subjective. You call me an F and whatever. Yeah. Going over there for 10 minutes.
Yeah, agreed. But it should be a red card.
The manager would go mad at you for getting sent off.
But it should be a red card
for 10 minutes.
If you abuse a referee, it should be a red card.
But Simon, the knock-on. This is really important. The knock-on effect from that would filter all the way down. all the way down.
FIFA have laughed it out of town, but Graeme, you're making a solid case for it. I have to admit that. Graeme says the blue card. If it was,
go and ask a man on the street today. Anyone?
Well, let's ask the callers right now.
Properly, though.
If they introduce a blue card in 2 weeks, you say it would eradicate simulation and dissent. They'd soon clamp down on the theatrics.
And Brentford get a draw on
I love the way he
Right.
wants to ask the man in the street. And a moment ago, the man in the street's over emotional and ultimately should be listened to for a certain period of the conversation.
Blue
now
cards,
he's a vox pop.
Blue cards, you having them or not? 03717 223344 810 89. Before you call in, you've got Souness to answer to.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.